That was a very, very long winded rant. Today, we talk about having a creative mindset, a boss mentality, and having a focus that is locked in on the empowerment of women in your community. I'm talking about none other than Ariana Chanel. Ariana stopped by the Journeyman Chronicles and sat down with me. We talked about what she's up to in Lancaster City and the many, many different things that she gets involved with. We're talking about freelance beauty and makeup. We're talking about realty. We're talking about working with CAP in Lancaster City in the Teen Elect program. There's so much that Ariana is doing that is driven by the community around her. So let's get started. This is Ariana's journey, and these are
The Journeyman Chronicles.
Other people.
Yeah.
So, especially on Facebook, it's the like maybe or suggesting people, and then or people share what you're doing, and I think you and two other people fell in that for me, where I was like, oh, this person's doing some cool shit. So, I started following you.
Yeah.
But you're dabbling in a lot of cool things. It's almost like, how do you find the energy to keep up? So obviously there's the makeup, and I don't want to just categorize it as makeup. I know it's a lot more, and
Right.
I'm hoping you enlighten myself and my audience. But then there's real estate, and there's Lancaster School District that you're a part of, and go ahead and share. I know you just shared some news about taking a position.
So in one portion of my life, I did work for Community Action Partnership of Lancaster.
Okay.
And I worked under their Teen Elect program, which basically provides support to parenting and pregnant youth inside of School District of Lancaster.
Okay.
So that was like my day job.
Okay.
That was my like insurance, health benefits, and all of
yeah.
that. And I was like really blessed to be like super rooted in a purpose there. So that was really great for me. The new position that I just accepted, like literally I started on Monday. It's that new. I took over as the office director for Lank Living Realty. We're located on 309 North Queen Street.
Okay.
So I still function as a realtor there, but
Yeah.
I'm helping out now on like the operational kind of like admin aspect of just getting the brokerage up and running and stuff.
So you're just like, your hands are in everything.
Yeah, so my background is like retail management.
Okay.
So I always joke like I didn't go to like college, like I tried, it just was like never for me. Beauty
Sure.
school was the only thing that stuck. But I ended up in retail. So for like retail, I worked probably like 4 or 5 years as a manager.
Okay.
So I just feel like everywhere that I worked, like I learned a piece about customer service, I learned a piece about visual merchandising, I learned about leadership, and then it was like I got all of this real world like hands-on experience that then kind of like led me to be a chameleon and like get my
Yeah.
foot in the door with like all these different roles. Because like when I started my CAP job, I didn't have any experience like that.
Okay.
That was a job that actually had like a degree like role requirement, and I was like, I'm really flattered I don't have the degree that you guys
Right,
have as a
right.
requirement. And they're like, well, you already work for the district, you have clearances, you do you have a heart to serve and a heart to give back. And I was like, yeah, that for sure.
Yeah.
Like I can do that. And I kind of just got my foot in the door that way. But
Nice.
I've always kind of been like that in terms of getting jobs and stuff like that. Like just being like, if you can teach me and you can teach me thoroughly like once or twice,
Sure.
I can do it.
Yeah.
I pick things up really, really fast, and I feel like that has helped me kind of segue through
Yeah.
different like roles and stuff.
And it's good to have confidence like that. Like you believe in yourself. You give me some time to learn it, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
What was it like about when it comes to real estate? Oh, I'm looking at everything that you're doing, and the common denominator is like the service of people, one way or another, helping, providing a service. Is that like the nucleus for what it is you love to do? Is be of service to yeah.
Yeah, it took me a while. Like I'll be 28 next month. So like I sat down and kind of was like, what, how are you doing all these things and like why? Like what is the intersection here? Because I struggled with like even just marketing myself as like a freelance makeup artist and a realtor, because that's just a lot for people to chew on. They're like, wait, you do what? And I'm like, depending on what day of the week it is. It will depend on the job. But I had to really sit down and like examine like where do they intersect? And at the end of it, it comes down to my desire to connect with other people and like my heart to just serve.
Yeah. And having faith in yourself and knowing that goes back to what we just talked about like 2 minutes ago. It's like I know that I can do it. I have this desire, I have this passion. So you kind of just like, let me just throw something against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, you said you're 28. That's like ridiculously young. So
no, listen, like, pandemic aged me at least 5 years. I'm definitely over 30 mentally. Like,
I think that goes for everybody.
All of us, at least 5 years.
The pandemic aged 5 years to everybody. When it comes to the work that you're doing in the school district, can we talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I'm no longer an employee, so everything that I say is 100% my thoughts and opinions.
Hey, I'm going through that myself, so please.
That was all by chance. That was really all by chance. Like I said, my background is retail management.
Yeah.
In the midst of me doing retail management, I decided that I wanted to go to like beauty school and get my aesthetics license.
Sure.
So I got my aesthetics license. I dabbled between retail and salons and stuff like that. And then COVID just really ruined things. At the time, I was managing a really prominent salon downtown and stuff like that. And just the COVID, the restrictions, it was like the 50% capacity.
Yeah.
We're already in a tight space. So ultimately, I ended up getting laid off from that job. So I remember going into like January of 2021, and I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like I went from like going into the year like riding high, like I've got this good job, like life is good. And then I just was like, I don't know what to do. And like he'll be 7 on Sunday. But so I have an almost 7-year-old. And as like a single parent, that was just like, oh my God, like COVID was the one time that I was like, I don't know if I can actually do this.
Yeah.
I always felt like, no, like, I'm mom. I'll make that happen. I'll pull it out. I'll do it. And COVID was the one time that I was like, I don't know how you want me to, like, work from home and teach him and, like, not lose my mind.
Yeah.
And, like, it was a lot. So I started to think in terms of employment. I'm like, okay, I'm laid off. Like, it's time for a shift. What does that shift look like for me? And all I could think was, you need a job that's not going to close down.
Yeah.
Like, you as a sole provider need a job that is considered essential. And sorry, baby, your makeup and hair is not essential as much as we feel like it is.
Yeah.
So I started thinking, and I was like, I'll apply to the school. The schools, we always need school employees. The school's never going to close. Even if it does, they still figured a way to open back up. So I ended up applying to McCaskey as a secretary. And I worked in McCaskey for the second half of their school year as a secretary in the front office. And that was so interesting. Okay. Like I never thought that I would be in that environment at all.
Yeah, because that's a complete like
I had never been in an office where they're like, just sit down for 8 hours and do your job. And I'm like, what do you mean sit down? You sit for 8 hours and do what? I'm like, the phones aren't ringing. And they're like, find something to do. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So it was like I'd never been in that office dynamic. So that was a complete like 360 for me. And I'd never worked in public education.
Yeah.
So I worked there. We let out for summer break. And of course, like I made friends in the building. I'm like, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm like pretty like bubbly.
The social butterfly.
Yeah, I'm always like, hey, you know, I'm like, you're gonna know my name and we're gonna talk every day if you come in here every day. That's just what it is. Full glam work and stuff like that. That's like not really my thing.
What's that?
Like
full.
Super long eyelashes, glitter, cut creases, because there's a demographic who loves that. And when people approach me for that, I'll be like, hey, go to XYZ and they will take care of you.
That's cool.
Because like I know like I can do it, but like one, it doesn't bring me joy, but it's also like that's not my special sauce. Yeah. Like my special sauce is makeup that makes you look like you slept for 8 hours last night and you drink enough water.
Like, okay, I like that.
Like literally, like I always try to make women look like themselves, but just like a slightly like up a notch.
Gotcha.
Because I hate when clients look at themselves in the mirror and it's like they feel like they don't look like themselves, or more so they feel like they now look like your aesthetic of what beauty is.
Yeah.
And my thing with makeup is like it's not for me to place any kind of social standard of what beauty is. Like I'm here to make you have an experience. Like getting makeup done is a luxury. You should feel pampered while you're sitting in my chair. You should feel comfortable. You should feel secure. You should know like while I'm doing this, like your face is literally in my hands.
Yeah.
So there should just be a level of comfort and trust between myself and the client, but also ultimately too that when you get up, like you feel like your best self. So if you don't feel like your best self, then like I didn't do my job.
Okay.
And for some women, you know, that's like mascara and like lip gloss.
Yeah.
And for other women, they want heavy contour, they want a red lip, they want a wing, and I'm like, okay, bet, we'll do it. But it's all about just like, you know, recognizing who's in your chair and kind of again like shape shifting and just adjusting to who's in front of you.
So it isn't really just about putting makeup on a face. You actually go into like the science of it, if you will, or the soul, the connection to the soul.
Yeah.
Like it's more than.
It's much for me. It's very like it's definitely more. I want to say personal, I guess, and kind of intimate in a sense.
Yeah.
And I can credit like the social work background for that because you know I learned a lot about just like trauma informed care and just like my emotional intelligence expanded so much as a result. So I feel like now I kind of get to bring that to my makeup because it's like there was things I had never considered. Like I had never considered if somebody has had trauma with being hit in the face or things in their face, that me as a makeup artist coming in and touching your face and not being like, hey girl, I'm gonna rest my hand here. Like that might actually trigger you and throw you off.
Okay.
So it was just like a lot of those like little things. And like when women sit down, a lot of times they'll feel like, oh girl, don't mind that huge pimple on my face. Don't mind that redness. Don't mind this. And I'm like, first of all, I'm not here to judge any of that. Like, let's make you feel like your soul feel good when you get out of the chair because it's so easy. I feel like women, we can be so self-deprecating. We're like our hardest critics sometimes. Absolutely. And it's like, I feel like we sit down in the chair and we're like, oh, I'll tell you all of these things so you don't necessarily notice the flaws. But it's like, girl, I'm the artist. So you're pointing out all of these things and I'm looking at you and I'm like, look at your cheekbones. Look at your eyebrows. Look at your eyes. Like I'm thinking of all the things that I want to sit and create with and play up.
We've talked about several things now. I want you to explain to me what this is. My wife has already said it to me, and I can't pronounce it.
Okay.
But we're talking about the cheese and the...
Oh, the charcuterie.
Yeah, charcuterie. Okay.
Charcuterie, if I'm being honest.
I could never pronounce that goddamn word. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to mispronounce it. I know. Okay, anyway. So charcuterie. Where did this come into play? Because it's something else that you're doing where I'm like, fuck, this is how many cards you got in the deck here.
That's it. I'm not adding anymore. I'm like, listen, I need a break. No, I always like jokes with my mom. I'm like, Mom, they say 7 streams of income to make a millionaire. I'm like, listen, I don't want to work this aggressively, but I'm halfway. So
there
like,
there you go. Yeah.
So the charcuterie business is actually really, really new. It wasn't supposed to be a business.
Okay.
Me and my sister like found like charcuterie TikTok. And last summer for my birthday, I was like, I want a grazing table. I was like, I don't want to do anything for my birthday other than have wine and beer, and I want to eat all those random snacks. So
my wife loves that shit.
I'm telling you. And I told everybody, I was like, guys, come over at like 6 or 7. Everybody's out the house by 11. It's a chill vibe.
Yeah.
But we're going to get wine drunk, and we're going to eat really good snacks.
Yeah.
So everybody is like, you're bananas. They were like, you having us over for charcuterie? What is that? And I'm like...
Nobody understood it.
I'm like, just come with your wine or your beer. That's it. Just come. So my sister put together an entire spread for me. Cheese and crackers and fruit and jams and baked goods and like all this kind of stuff. And then after that, we kind of just kept like making them. So everybody's like, oh, okay, Adi, you guys like make a charcuterie board. You know, so it's like, oh, we're having a cookout. So I'm like, can you bring a little charcuterie? And we're like, oh, sure. You know, because it really was just a charcuterie. I'm gonna send you the TikTok video on Instagram so you can hear the audio. But there's a video of an old man and his granddaughters are like, Grandpa, how do you say this? And he's like, what is that? And he's like, charcuterie, charcuterie. Like,
so you just call it charcuterie.
And I always say it as a joke, but like now, like it's funny because even like amongst our customers and stuff like that, they're like, girl, I need a charcuterie for 4 to 6. And I'll be like, okay, no problem. Send me the email. But no, it really just started as kind of just like a passion, like hobby, like between me and my sister. We like found something we like to do. We like to do it together.
Yeah.
We're pretty close, but you know, with us being pretty close, we fight a ton. So it was something that we did together and didn't fight over and we just had fun. So it kind of just kept spiraling from there. And then our friend, her name is Thundercat. She's a local poet.
Yes.
She does Thunder Mimosas.
Okay.
So the very first Thunder Mimosas, she's like, guys, it's a brunch vibe. So we're like, oh, that's cool. She was like, I really want to have one of your charcuterie boards, but can you make it huge? And we're like, oh my God, what do you mean make it huge? She's like make it for like at least 50 people. So we're like, we've never done that. So we're like, okay, cool. So we did it. And then she kept booking us back. And now it's so funny because like Thunder and Mimosas and Two Board Girls are like synonymous. It's like people know if they're going to Thunder and Mimosas, like, yeah, you're going to have your mimosas and your poetry, but there's also going to be a huge charcuterie table from Two Board Girls. So it really has just kind of spun out of control via word of mouth and referral and stuff like that. So it's been really exciting because now we're learning about how, to put together correctly a food business. My sister is marketing, events, coordinating, like that's her whole wheelhouse. Neither of us. We love to cook, we love to host, but like never had any intention of doing anything with a food business. And we've been doing a lot more event kind of stuff. So we're doing a lot more grazing tables. We're doing a lot more like curated, like themed boards for certain things.
Okay.
So yeah, that really was an accident, a happy accident.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Super happy accident. But yeah, well, technically Two Board Girls will celebrate 1 year next month.
There you go.
But yeah, so we're really, really excited to see what is to come with that.